You're about to hear the chilling story of Linda, a young woman whose life takes a terrifying turn the moment she turns 21. It's a horror tale straight out of Indonesia, and let me tell you, the sheer horror of what she discovers about her closest enemy, her very own Qarin Jinn, will send shivers down your spine. This Qarin Jinn, her companion spirit, was so determined to keep her away from faith that it wouldn't even allow her to complete a single prayer at the Islamic boarding school she joined. And the reason why this jinn was so fiercely protective and had such a sinister motive, well, you simply won't believe it. This story holds a dark secret that connects her past, her birth, and a truly terrifying promise. So without any more spoilers, let's dive right into this recently released Indonesian horror story. The story begins with Linda, an ordinary girl heading to her hostel room. We see her stepping into the lift, and as she travels up, nothing seems out of the ordinary. But pay close attention, because the moment Linda steps out of that lift and moves towards her floor, the camera lingers. And right there, inside the now empty elevator car, stands a terrifying demonic presence, a truly horrific shaitan. Unaware of the monstrous entity she just passed, Linda continues down the dark corridor toward her room. Suddenly, a creeping sensation washes over her. She feels a chilling, undeniable presence, as if something was stalking her right there in the shadows of the dimly lit hallway. Linda spins around quickly, but the hallway is empty. Yet the feeling persists, an oppressive dread that makes her heart pound. Deeply spooked, she hurries the final few steps and rushes into her room. As soon as she flicks the light switch, 4 of her friends jump out and yell, "Surprise!" They were there to celebrate her 21st birthday. Linda, momentarily relieved and happy, is touched by their gesture, but the warmth is fleeting. The moment Linda leans in to blow out the candles, the atmosphere instantly becomes unnerving and strange. In a terrifying hallucination, her friends' faces contort and melt away, revealing not her 4 cheerful companions, but 4 horrifying jinns standing around the cake. This awful memory snaps Linda awake. She was asleep in a car, jolting out of the nightmare that marked her 21st birthday. She was on a journey, and the car soon pulled up to a bus stop where Linda decided to use the restroom. It's here that we start to piece together why she was traveling and what has been haunting her. We flash back to a meeting with Wadi, the woman who had raised Linda since she was a child. Ever since that nightmarish birthday, Linda's life had been plagued by strange occurrences. She couldn't get a full night's rest. She was constantly waking up from horrific dreams involving jinn and a sinister, tiny, demonic child. She even sought a doctor's opinion, but the medical explanation was dismissive. The doctor suggested she was likely just experiencing stress due to upcoming exams. But Linda knew this was more than stress. It felt like a dark force was returning. She reminded Wadi that when she was a little girl, Wadi used to mention the strange things that would happen to her. Linda felt with certainty that those terrible events were starting all over again. Wadi, hearing this, immediately grew worried. It was semester break, Wadi explained, and she had an idea. Linda should spend some time at Umi Ayu's Madrasa, Islamic school. Wadi believed that by being there, Linda could strengthen her connection with Almighty Allah, potentially warding off whatever evil was pursuing her. Taking Wadi's advice, Linda was now on her way to Umi Ayu's Madrasa. Back in the present, Linda is standing in the bus station restroom. She looks into the mirror, and in a terrifying moment of clarity, she sees a reflection that is not her own. It is a horrifying, distorted version of herself. This terrifying twin entity in the mirror speaks, desperately warning Linda not to go to the madrasa. Linda is aghast and demands to know who this entity is. The chilling reflection smirks and replies, "I am Linda, and you are me. We are one." The evil reflection begins to pressure Linda, forcing her to accept this horrifying truth. Linda loses it. She cries out in desperation, overwhelmed by fear and panic. In a fit of terror, she smashes the mirror to pieces and flees the restroom. After buying her bus ticket, Linda boards the bus, trying to occupy her mind by reading, but her thoughts are racing, and she can't concentrate. She looks up and sees a father and his daughter in the seat ahead. When the little girl falls asleep, her father gently pulls her onto his shoulder. This simple, loving scene triggers a flood of memories in Linda, a flashback to 10 years earlier. We see young Linda looking at a photo album of her parents. Her mother had passed away, and her father, Zaidi, treated her with harshness and cruelty. When he saw her touching the album, which he had expressly forbidden her to touch, he flew into a rage and scolded her mercilessly. Later that same day, Zaidi calls his brother, Linda's uncle, to the house. He confesses that he simply cannot live with Linda anymore. He claims he had tried to be a father for the past 12 years, but he just couldn't do it. He tells his brother that seeing Linda's face constantly reminded him of his late wife Linda's mother and the sin he committed that led to Linda's birth. In a devastating reveal, Zaidi states that Linda is not his blood and that he no longer wants her in his life. Her uncle tries to reason with him, but Zaidi's mind is made up. He plans to send Linda to an orphanage. Hiding just out of sight, little Linda overhears this entire, brutal conversation, which crushes her. That very night, when Zaidi returns home from work, he hears a strange, muffled whimpering coming from Linda's room. He looks inside and is met with a terrifying sight. Linda's entire body has turned black, and she is convulsing violently, struggling desperately for air. Horrified, he scoops her up and races toward the stairs. As he descends, he is stopped cold in his tracks. Standing right in front of him is the real Linda, looking perfectly normal. Zaidi is paralyzed with shock. Then a chilling voice speaks from behind him, saying, "I have come to take what was promised to me." Before Zaidi can even react, some unseen force shoves him violently down the stairs. He hits the floor hard, fatally wounded, and dies right there. Linda witnessed the whole thing. And in the most bone-chilling detail of all, the narrator tells us that a faint smile played on the little girl's lips as her father lay dead. This horrific memory brings adult Linda back to the present. Shaken to her core, she immediately begins reciting the Istighfar, a prayer for forgiveness, and desperately seeks help from Almighty Allah. Her journey finally ends, and she arrives at the Madrasa. Inside, she pauses to look at some pictures on a board. Umi Ayu, the head of the Madrasa, calls out to her. Ayu expresses her sincere happiness, saying she never thought the little girl she raised would one day choose the path of Allah, seeking to learn the Quran. After Zaidi's death, it was Ayu who essentially raised Linda. Ayu calls over a teacher and asks her to show Linda to her room. As they're leaving, another Yumi named Jamila voices her profound concern to Ayu. She asks if it was wise to bring Linda here and worries that Linda might bring harm to the other girls. Ayu is clearly troubled by this warning. Meanwhile, Linda is following the other Yumi to her new room. Suddenly, she bumps into another girl. The girl reaches out, grabs Linda's hand, and then she is transformed. The girl's face becomes the horrifying, terrifying version of Linda, the same one she saw in the mirror. The entity warns Linda that this place is not for her and commands her to leave immediately. Linda is petrified. But then the girl's face reverts back to normal, and she is just a regular student. Linda shakes her head, wondering if she is simply imagining things again. She quickly proceeds to her room. The Yumi tells her to rest for a while and then meet them in the prayer room for Salah, prayer. Linda enters her room and begins unpacking. Her thoughts drift back to her father's death, the funeral, and how her uncle placed her in Wadi's care at a boarding school. As she's caught in this memory, she sees a flash of her horrifying reflection again, which quickly vanishes, bringing her back to reality. That night, after the Isha prayer, Yumi Jamila begins a lesson for the students. She is teaching them about how Satan tempts and misleads humanity, using verses from the Quran to explain her points. As Jamila speaks, Linda senses something sinister. She hears a terrifying voice lurking just beyond the edge of her vision. In an instant, Jamila's voice deepens and contorts, and her physical appearance changes into that of a hideous, malevolent demon. This monstrous apparition looks directly at Linda and snarls, "Linda, your time has come to fulfill the deal." Hearing this chilling announcement, Linda is paralyzed with fear. She bolts from the room and runs as fast as she can. Jamila, the real Yumi Jamila, is left bewildered by Linda's sudden, terrified exit. But escaping the room doesn't stop the voice. The terrifying whisper follows Linda, relentlessly repeating, "I am yours, Linda." No matter how fast she runs, the voice pursues her. Linda finally reaches her room and slams the door shut. At that moment, we see a jinn outside the room. Its attention is drawn to another girl at the Madrasa. the same girl Linda had bumped into that morning. When the voice finally stops, Linda hesitantly opens her door and steps out. She immediately hears the frantic shouts of the other girls. A few of them tell her that Amen is possessed by a jinn and that they are going to get Umi Ayu for help. Linda approaches the scene and sees Iman exhibiting extremely abnormal, violent behavior. Umi Jamila is desperately trying to perform an exorcism to force the jinn out, but Jamila is struggling. The jinn is too powerful. Suddenly, the jinn inside Iman's body catches sight of Linda. Iman's behavior immediately becomes even more erratic. It's a shocking sight. Iman seems terrified of Linda, or perhaps more accurately of the dark power that surrounds Linda. The jinn becomes so unnerved by Linda's presence that it violently throws Iman into the water, presumably a pond or well on the grounds. The other girls rush to pull Iman out. Even after Iman regains consciousness, she keeps staring at Linda. Umi Jamila notices this unsettling connection. Linda retreats to her room, and Jamila immediately goes to Umi Ayu's room. Jamila explains everything that just happened with Iman. She points out that nothing like this had ever occurred at the Madrasa before Linda's arrival. Jamila was not happy about Linda being there from the start, and now she feels completely justified. Reminds Jamila of their purpose. The Madrasa was established to guide wayward and orphaned girls toward Islam. Turning Linda away would be a betrayal of their mission. Jamila is unconvinced, but Ayu promises to discuss the matter later. Jamila leaves, still frustrated. Meanwhile, Linda is in her room, distraught. She feels responsible for Iman's possession. Desperate, she calls Wadi and tells her that she can't stay there, that things are only getting worse. She tells Wadi she wants to meet with Azan, a man she seems to trust. As she says this, the window behind her violently flies open on its own. Wadi's voice on the phone begins to break up and fade. Linda is terrified. She slams the window shut and trembles with fear. Umi Ayu is deeply worried about Linda. She pulls out a picture of herself and a young Linda from a drawer. After her father's death, Linda had stayed with Ayu. The scene flashes back to that time. One day, Ayu calls for a religious scholar named Azan. Accompanied by Wadi, arrives because Linda has been sitting motionless beneath a large tree in the garden for an hour. Leaving Wadi behind, Azan cautiously approaches Linda. He finds Linda completely overtaken, possessed by a jinn. The jinn speaks through Linda, telling Azan that it has come to take what is rightfully its and warns him not to interfere. Azan begins to recite verses from the Holy Quran. The jinn inside Linda screams in pain. Azan manages to subdue her and ties her down on a table, continuing his recitation. The jinn eventually calms down, but only for a moment. It then breaks free, laughing demonically, sits up violently, and spits blood into Azan's face. It lunges at him, and no one can control it. Ayu rushes forward and tries to break through the possession. Urging Linda to fight the jinn, she declares that Linda is her responsibility from now on. Hearing Ayu's unwavering declaration, the jinn slowly leaves Linda's body. Back in the present, Ayu is consumed by fear, wondering if the jinn has returned. Meanwhile, Linda decides she can't stay at the Madrasa a moment longer. She packs her bags and tries to run away. As she flees the compound, she feels certain the jinn is chasing her. She comes upon a house in the wilderness. And then she hears the profoundly moving and beautiful sound of Quranic recitation. Captivated by the sweet melody, Linda is drawn to the house and steps inside. She sees a young man named Taher reciting the Quran in a beautiful voice. Taher notices Linda and invites her in to recite with him. As Linda is about to accept the invitation and step further inside, a flash of lightning illuminates the sky. It's as if the jinn is frantically trying to prevent Linda from returning to the path of faith. The lightning and severe thunder terrify Linda. She turns and bolts back into the torrential rain. Amidst the downpour and flashes of lightning, a bolt strikes a nearby pillar, causing Linda to collapse unconscious. Linda wakes up later in a strange room. A baby's cry startles her awake. Suddenly, the door creaks open, and she sees a small, demonic child walking past. The child quickly enters her room. Linda is panicked. The demonic jinn child crawls toward her, then slowly, impossibly, enters her body through her stomach. Linda feels an excruciating, agonizing pain as if she has suddenly become pregnant. This torment is so intense that she wakes up, realizing it was all a dream. However, she finds herself in the exact same room from the dream. Confused, she gets up and opens the window to see the light of day. A moment later, there's a knock on the door. It's Taher. He explains that he found her unconscious in the forest and brought her to his house. He gives her a cup of herbal water made by his father, saying it will give her energy. After Taher leaves, Linda goes downstairs and meets his father, Mabub. Mabub informs her that Umi Ayu is on her way to collect her. Linda thanks him for the herbal water. Mabub warns her not to wander around at night in the forest again, as it disturbs the jinns. Taher asks Linda if she is new to the Madrasa. She says, yes, she just arrived yesterday. Taher congratulates her for choosing the path of Allah. He advises her to keep her iman, faith, strong. While waiting for Ayu, Taher and Linda talk more. Linda asks him which verses he was reciting the night before. Taher tells her it was verses from Surah Al-Mu'minun, which speaks of the power of Almighty Allah. He explains that these verses are particularly helpful. In the fight against shaitan and wicked jinns, intrigued, Linda asks why jinns and shaitan bother people. Taher's answer is simple, to lead them astray. He adds that nothing can touch those whose faith is strong. As Linda and Taher talk, Umi Ayu is having a conversation with Mabub. Mabub agrees with Jamila. It was a mistake to bring Linda to the madrasa, as it will only bring danger to the other girls. Ayu asks what exactly is wrong with Linda. Mabub reveals the terrifying truth. Linda's Qarin Jinn, guardian jinn, is extremely powerful and dangerous. He explains that whenever anyone speaks ill of Linda, this jinn will become uncontrollably violent. Ayu is confused. If it's just a Qarin Jinn, why is it trying to lead Linda away from Allah's path? Mabub's response is chilling. Linda's Qarin Jinn is different from others. It absolutely does not want Linda to embrace Islam because it has a major sinister purpose. He explains that a deal was made regarding Linda when she was a child. This is why Shaitan itself wants to keep her from faith. Ayu then tells Mabub that when Linda was 12, a jinn possessed her. Mabub confirms this but says the jinn wasn't successfully driven out, it left voluntarily, simply waiting for the right time to return. And now, that time has arrived. The jinn wants to take Linda. Ayu is filled with dread. On the drive back to the madrasa, Ayu is silent and anxious. Linda, noticing her worry, asks Ayu to write down the verses from Surah Al-Mu'minun for her when she has time. Ayu agrees. Back in her room, Linda finds the verses of Surah Al-Mu'minun and begins to read them. She reads until she drifts off to sleep. She wakes up much later. It's dark. She remembers Taher mentioning the benefit of tahajjud prayer, late-night prayer, and Quran recitation during that time is a powerful weapon against jinn and shaitan. She gets up, performs wudu, ablution, and prepares for prayer. As she begins her prayer, she hears a voice behind her. She turns and gasps in terror. Standing there is the horrifying, identical double her Qarin Jinn. The jinn warns her that no matter where she goes, it will never leave her side. It taunts her with more terrifying words. Linda is overwhelmed. She covers her ears and cries out repeatedly that she and the jinn are not the same. Once again, she wakes up. It was another nightmare. The Fajr Azan, morning call to prayer, rings out. Linda gets ready for prayer. For the first time since she arrived, she is able to pray normally at the mosque. The imam is none other than Taher, which surprises her. After the prayer, she speaks with him. Taher explains he's been the imam there for 3 years. He offers his help if she has any problems, which comforts her. Later that day, Linda goes to see Umi Ayu. Ayu is on the phone, visibly upset. Linda overhears her say how terrible it is that Linda has to pay the price for her mother's mistake. Ayu says she doesn't know how much time Linda has left and that they need to act quickly. She opens the door and is shocked to find Linda standing there, having heard everything. Linda demands to know what she meant by her time running out and what her mother's sin was. Ayu finally reveals the dark history. Linda's parents couldn't have children. Desperate to save her marriage, her mother sought the help of a black magic sorcerer named Saman. As a result, she became pregnant. But the pregnancy was not normal. While Linda was in the womb, her parents experienced terrifying, violent, supernatural events. They eventually learned that Linda's mother had made a terrible pact with Saman for the baby. Both the Jinn and Saman were hunting her. Azan and others managed to save baby Linda, but her mother was tragically killed. This is why Zaidi could never accept Linda. She was not his biological child. Linda was the result of a black magic ritual facilitated by Saman. Linda was now bearing the burden of her mother's sin. Ayu explains that since no one knew the exact terms of the pact Linda's mother made with the sorcerer or the Jinn, they couldn't help Linda. Linda is devastated and starts to blame her mother. Ayu tries to comfort her, saying that blaming her mother, who is now gone, is wrong. Everyone faces trials from Allah, and this is Linda's test. She urges Linda to focus on her own deeds, to pray more, and to strengthen her faith. Tearfully, Linda cries out that she can't even pray. The Shaitan Jinn constantly harasses her. Ayu embraces her and gives her comfort. Linda is sitting alone, thinking about everything, when a man approaches her to get her scarf. But a man suddenly sees Linda and is overcome with panic. She runs away, apologizing profusely. Linda is puzzled by the man's constant fear of her. As the time for Maghrib prayer approaches, everyone heads to the prayer room. Linda is about to get up and pray, invoking Allah's name, when she hears screaming from outside. Fearing the worst, she rushes out. She sees a man standing on top of a tall building. Everyone is begging her to come down. Ayman is crying and apologizing to an invisible force above her, saying she failed to listen. She sobs that now she has to die. Umi Ayu tries to talk her down, but Ayman cries out that it's not just her. The Jinn will torture everyone here unless Linda leaves. She continues to beg the unseen entity for forgiveness. Linda arrives on the scene. When Ayman sees Linda, she is instantly repossessed. The Jinn, speaking through Ayman, addresses Linda, reminding her that it had warned her this was not her place. Then, in a horrific instant, Ayman jumps off the building, killing herself. Everyone is devastated, especially Umi Ayu. While the police investigate, Linda is hiding, watching Ayman's body. Umi Jamila, who has been openly hostile toward Linda, spots her lurking. Jamila was already furious and blamed Linda for everything, and now she feels she has clear proof. She follows Linda, cornering her in a secluded area. Jamila unleashes her rage, asking why Linda is here. She screams that Linda is responsible for all the tragedy. She accuses Linda of faking her innocence and purity. Jamila demands that Linda leave the madrasa tonight and never let her see her face again. As Jamila continues to scream at her, the dark force within Linda can no longer be contained. Linda's Qarin Jinn emerges and roars at Jamila to stop bothering Linda. Linda instantly reverts to normal and flees back to her room. Jamila is left in stunned disbelief at what she has just witnessed. Linda begins packing her things, preparing to leave. Meanwhile, Jamila is getting into her car. She runs into Ayu, who asks what she is doing. Jamila says she is taking Linda to a neighboring village to get the Jinn removed. Ayu warns her that the task is not easy, it's incredibly dangerous. Jamila is shocked, realizing that Ayu knew about the evil force all along. She demands to know why Ayu stayed silent. Ayu replies that the time wasn't right. Jamila angrily rejects this, stating that one person is already dead and she won't wait for another. If Ayu is scared, she can stay, but Jamila will act alone. She speeds off. As she drives toward Linda's room, she sees Linda fleeing the madrasa on foot. Jamila catches her, forces her into the car, and drives away. Ayu goes to Linda's room and finds it empty. She is immediately filled with dread, knowing that Jamila is now in grave danger. As the Jinn will protect Linda, Jamila is driving Linda to the village for the exorcism. Linda desperately pleads with Jamila to stop the car and let her out. Jamila misunderstands. Believing Linda wants to keep the Jinn, Jamila continues to insult and rage at Linda. Linda's inner Jinn again takes over and screams at Jamila. Jamila loses control of the car, which plunges into a ravine. Linda comes to and manages to free herself. Jamila is unconscious, so Linda struggles to pull her out of the wrecked car. Smoke is already rising and the car is moments from igniting. Linda manages to pull Jamila a short distance away before the car explodes. The force of the blast knocks Linda unconscious. She wakes up to the sound of her mother's voice. She sees her dead mother standing before her in a hospital room. Her mother says she has returned and will never leave Linda again. Overcome with emotion, Linda embraces her mother, begging her not to go. But as she holds her mother, she looks up into a mirror on the wall. She is not embracing her mother, she is locked in the terrifying embrace of the horrific Jinn. Linda screams, and this time she wakes up for real. She is in a hospital bed, with Umi Ayu sitting beside her. Ayu tells her that Jamila died in the accident. Linda is heartbroken. Walking outside the hospital, Linda laments that it would have been better if she had died too, to end all the trouble. Ayu chastises her, reminding her that she is trying to strengthen her faith and shouldn't speak such things. Overcome with emotion, Linda again blames her mother for all her misery. Suddenly, Azan arrives. Linda is immediately comforted by his presence. Azan explains that Wadi told him what happened and he came right away. He apologizes for abandoning Linda years ago. Linda asks why he can't heal her now like he did before. Azan reminds her that only Almighty Allah heals and he was merely an instrument. He advises Linda to pray to Allah and to pray for the souls of her parents. Linda is resistant, asking why she should pray for the mother who caused all her problems. Azan tells her that despite everything, she was still her mother and a child should always pray for their mother. He urges her to recite Surah Al-Fatiha for her mother whenever possible. Linda takes this advice to heart and decides she needs to see her mother's grave. She rushes back to Azan and begs him to take her, as she has never seen her mother's resting place. Azan agrees. He takes her to the village cemetery. Seeing the grave makes Linda incredibly emotional. She asks Azan to tell her everything about her mother's death and her own birth. As she asks this, the atmosphere suddenly grows heavy and cold. Azan, feeling the darkness creeping in, says it's almost Maghreb and they must leave immediately. Linda is reluctant but follows him. Azan brings her to his house and asks her to stay the night, promising to take her back to the Madrasa in the morning. Linda accepts. That night, a flash of lightning wakes Linda. She gets up and grabs her clothes, preparing for the Isha prayer. Suddenly, she hears her mother's voice calling for her. The voice is outside the window, pleading for help. Linda is terrified. She cautiously opens the window. Outside, beneath a tree, stands the rotting, terrifying corpse of her mother, wrapped in a shroud. Terrified and distraught, Linda rushes out of the house, following her mother's voice. The voice leads her back to the cemetery, to her mother's grave. From the earth, she hears her mother's muffled screams. She is burning. She is in pain, and she begs Linda to help her. Driven mad by the screams, Linda grabs a shovel and starts digging up the grave. She unearths her mother's skeleton. It starts to pour with rain. Linda is hysterical, holding the bones, not knowing what to do or how to help her mother. At that moment, the black magic sorcerer Saman appears. Linda demands to know who he is. The man, the sorcerer, simply replies, "I am your father." Linda screams that he is a liar, he is a shaitan-possessed sorcerer. As she yells, Saman places his hand on her head. Linda is instantly thrown into a memory of the past. She sees the black magic ritual. Her mother, desperate for a child, agreed to any condition. Saman, who was possessed by the jinn, made a deal. He knocked her mother unconscious, then had sexual intercourse with her, resulting in Linda's birth. Linda's mother never knew the full terms of the deal. The jinn's condition was that just as he fathered Linda, Linda must in turn bear his child. The jinn wanted to propagate his lineage through her. Linda utterly refuses this monstrous, filthy proposal. Saman laughs and calls forth the other jinns. They surround Linda. Linda is panicking, but then the piece of paper with the verses of Surah Al-Mu'minun falls from her pocket. She grabs it and begins to recite. The shaitan and the sorcerer scream in agony. The jinn vanish and Linda shoves Saman into her mother's grave. But in the struggle, she falls in too. A hand emerges from the water inside the grave and pulls Linda down. Linda wakes up. She is back at the scene of the car accident. She is utterly confused. Was the entire cemetery sequence a trick by the jinn to weaken her faith? She is brought to the hospital. Jamila is truly dead. Linda is devastated. She begs Ayu to help her. She can't stand the thought of anyone else dying because of her. Ayu realizes that this is the moment Linda has completely put her trust in Allah and her faith is finally strong. Ayu rushes to Mehbub's house, pleading for his help. Mabub says he is too old and weak. He explains that this is not a black magic case. The Jinn has been with Linda since birth, and her Qarin Jinn is also involved. Ayu begs him to help for the sake of the other girls at the Madrasa. Unbeknownst to them, Taher is listening from a distance. Linda wakes up again, this time to find Taher by her side. He says he came to check on her, which cheers her up. Taher asks for permission to do something to her. Linda asks what it is. He says he wants to heal her. Linda happily agrees. Taher stands up and places his hand over Linda's eyes. He then proceeds to knock her unconscious in the exact same manner that Saman had done to her mother during the black magic ritual. Mabub enters the room, realizing the deception. He calls out to Taher, but then his eyes fall on the window. The real Taher is standing outside. The Taher inside the room is Saman, the sorcerer, who had taken Taher's form to complete the ritual. Realizing he's been caught, Saman drops the disguise and returns to his true horrifying form. He laughs and warns Mabub to stay out of his business. Linda's mother made a deal, and Saman is here to take Linda. Mabub argues that Saman misled Linda's mother, causing her to commit that sin. He puts down a spiritual container, hoping to trap the Jinn sorcerer. But Saman is too powerful. He instantly shatters the container. The real Taher then bursts into the room. Saman quickly enters Taher's body, possessing him. Taher decides to fight the Jinn. A brutal fight ensues. Mabub tries to help his son, but the Jinn-possessed Taher slams the door on his face, knocking Mabub unconscious. Ayu rushes out to find help. Taher, despite the odds, manages to subdue the Jinn, but as he's about to banish it, the Jinn vanishes. Taher is confused until he realizes that the Jinn has now possessed Linda. Linda sits up, laughing. The Jinn, speaking through her, tells Taher that Linda is his child's mother and that he has the right to command her. Taher rebukes the Jinn, reminding him that humans are the noblest of creations, Ashraful Makhlukat. Linda, as a human, will only obey Almighty Allah. The Jinn rages, questioning why Allah would give Shaitan the power to lead humans astray. As it yells, the windows and lights in the room explode. The Jinn jumps out the window and flees. It runs straight into Ayu, who tries to bring Linda back to her senses. The Jinn is furious at Ayu, blaming her for Linda's strengthening faith. He grabs Ayu by the throat. As Linda leaped out the window, the paper with the Surah Al-Mu'minun verses fell out of her pocket. Taher picks it up, knowing exactly what to do. He rushes out and begins reciting Surah Al-Mu'minun. Mabub, having regained consciousness, joins him, and then Ayu adds her voice to the prayer. The Jinn weakens. Linda's spirit is reinvigorated, and she remembers the lessons from Ayu and Taher that only the power of faith can fight this enemy. She strengthens her resolve and fights the Jinn inside her, struggling to force it out. With the power of the Quran and her unshakable faith, Linda finally succeeds in banishing the Jinn from her body. Ayu is overjoyed. Linda is finally free. They all return to the Madrasa. Linda's life settles into a peaceful routine, much like the period between the ages of 12 and 21. She lives happily at the Madrasa, enjoying her time with the other girls. She speaks directly to us, the audience, saying that Allah tests us in many ways. She is now ready for her next test, prepared to strengthen her faith even more. The story concludes with a scene late one night. Linda is standing in prayer. Suddenly, a terrifying, hideous laugh echoes through the night. Linda shivers. And that is where the story ends? Did the Jinn return? Has another one come for her? Or is this simply the beginning of her next trial from Almighty Allah? We won't know until the next part of this chilling story is released. What did you think of this terrifying story? Let me know in the comments below.